We are live, broadcasting live. This is the Conversation Room 101. Make sure it's only adults in the house. I need your mind to be open, prepared, and relaxed. Welcome to our home. Take your shoes off. We got some rules we need to go over. Be kind. No cursing in the chat. If you want to curse, call in. And no shouting out other channels. That's a no-no. We got one other rule. There is no judging our guests. It will not be permitted. Zero tolerance. And if so, you want to do that, guess what? We got security. And we will escort you out. Because over here, hashtag we don't care. We're going to be one big family. We're going to laugh together sometimes. We're going to cry. But we definitely going to pray. I thank the Lord above for everything. I lift him up and give him the glory. But you guys, right now, we're going to get our popcorn. And then we're going to see what's going on. And let me just park my car. And I'll be in there in a minute. I'll see you soon.
The Copyright Disclaimer Act. The Copyright Disclaimer Act under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news, reporting, teaching, scholarships, and research. Fair use is used permitted by copyright statutes that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Like, share, subscribe.
Do you want to know? Well, I've been thinking about you. And I think you'll have to listen. Because the sun is up, it's a beautiful day.
And we won't stop. We will not stop.
Sun. Come, won't you come along? And it feels so right. It's like luck is raining on me. Go and follow your heart. Doesn't matter how far. There is so much love to give. Something's telling me this time. Baby, baby, now.
See this? You cannot go.
Baby, baby, gotta go. There is so much love to give. Something's telling me it's right.
Neighbors and their
When you
community
came to me,
compelled to
who are
scour
you?
the area.
It's you, yeah, boy.
Where does the fault lie on you?
Hey family, come on in, you guys. Come on in. She said, I'm driving but listening. Hey, I see Zena in the building, and I also see Lisa Taylor. You guys, it has been a long weekend. I told you guys I am trying to get over the Naziah case. We will continue with Naziah. I'll be talking about Naziah tomorrow. I want to work on something. I had to back away. I had to back away because, I was feeling some kind of way. Hey, Evelyn, but I've got some things to share with you. I have been wanting to share it for a while, but I just had to back away because the people over there in Detroit, I'm getting upset. I'm getting upset because I see how this is going on the Naziah case. And you guys, I wanted to share with you guys, Kelli Bryant went to court and she was acting like she was crazy. You guys do know, she said she sacrificed her kids. She said she sacrificed her kids. Okay? And I wanted to watch this again because when I watched it the first time, people were, I've got things going on at my house. So, I'm waiting on the call because I've got to make another report. I've got a vehicle that was damaged and the people are playing like they don't understand. I get sick and tired of that. So I'm dealing with that. And so I'm waiting on a phone call on that. And I said, you guys, I want to watch this. I know you guys, we covered this where her name is Kelli Bryant, and she left her kids in this house, and she was sending food over there to the house. She stayed right down the street, and she said she sacrificed her kids, told them don't go outside. The kids' fingernails and toenails grew so long that they could barely walk. They don't know how to brush their teeth. They had no loving, no support. They were just living in, and you can't say, I mean, they were living in filth, but they're kids. She left these kids for like 3, 4 years and just did what she wanted to do. She was on Facebook. She's on TikTok. She dancing, smiling, showing money, so they charged her and everything. And she's sitting there in court. You guys, we're going to watch it together. Yeah, we're going to watch it together. And I want you guys to see it. What it's all about. What it's all about, and you tell me what you think. I've got it already ready to go. So we're going to watch this. Now, this is a 28-minute video. So it's going to take up majority of our hour. And that's fine. It's going to take up majority of the hour, half of the hour. But every 10 minutes, you guys, or maybe I think it's like every 7 minutes, I've got to stop the video and I've got to say something, or they're going to say, only thing you did was do. So, if we use this video to, we do put our warnings out there, our banners out there to let them know that it is fair use. Matter of fact, let's do it one more time before we show this video, because I want y'all to see the full video. Okay?
The Copyright Disclaimer Act. The Copyright Disclaimer Act under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news, reporting, teaching, scholarships, and research. Fair use is used permitted by copyright statutes that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Okay, let's get it popping. Let's go in here and let's see if I can pull it up.
And also case number 250310 Alpha.
Good morning, Your Honor. You're just appearing on behalf of the people for the welfare fraud case.
Good morning, Your Honor. Nika Ferentz on behalf of the people.
And good morning, Your Honor. Celia Karen on behalf of Ms. Bryant on both cases.
Good morning, Your Honor. Ben Gannick on behalf of Ms. Bryant on behalf of the child abuse case.
All right. And Ms. Bryant, would you state your name for the record, please?
Kelli Bryant.
Thank you. This is the time and date for preliminary exams on both cases. As to the welfare fraud case, Ms. Smith?
Yes, Your Honor. It's my understanding that we are going to have a waiver on that case. I think our inclination is to have the child abuse exam go first, make sure that that's bound over or is at least concluded, and then waive on the welfare fraud case just to keep the two cases together. So however the court wants to do that, that was our thought, but if the court has a different suggestion, we're obviously open to that as well.
That would be fine if there's no objection.
There's no objection, Your Honor. We just like to keep everything together.
All right, that's fine. So I'll circle back to that at the conclusion of the child abuse case.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. As to the child abuse matter, parties are ready to move forward?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Are there any preliminary matters for the record?
Yes, Your Honor. The parties are asking for a mutual sequestration order. I do have Detective Frisch, who is the officer in charge in this case. I asked for him to remain. And I have the first witness, Deputy Curtis, who's in the courtroom right now.
No objection.
I will note mutual sequestration of witnesses until they're called. The officer in charge can stay.
Thank you, Your Honor. Secondly, Because the victims in this case are children, we are asking for their names to not be said today in court. My suggestion would be to label them as the oldest child, the middle child, and the youngest, just to protect them.
And Yana, we spoke about this before. We have no desire for their names to be repeated in court over and over again, so we're in agreement. And
Because they are minor children, the court would agree with that as well.
thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. There was stipulations to the exhibits for purposes of examination only. I do have photographs of the home. They're labeled as People's Exhibits 1 through 20. I do have them on a USB for the court. And I also have hard copies of the pictures. Secondly, the 21 and 24 of the People's Exhibit are the forensic interviews of the victims in this case. So there are 3 forensic interviews that were conducted at Care House. And we are asked if there's a stipulation for them to be admitted for purposes of exam only for in-camera review.
That is correct, Your Honor.
And I will note the stipulation to admission, that's for the exhibits as well.
Yes,
1 through 20. Also, stipulation for the admission of 21 and 24 for purposes of the preliminary examination.
yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. And then lastly, there were some stipulations to facts in this case. First, that Kelli Bryant is the mother of the named victims and that she had custody over them.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Second, that all the 3 named victims are under the age of 18.
That is also correct, Your Honor.
And third, that Kelli Bryant was named on the lease of 660 Lydia Avenue in the city of Pontiac.
That is also correct.
Court will accept those stipulations as facts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other preliminary matters, you ready?
I don't believe so, Your Honor.
People can call it first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The people called Deputy Curtis.
Deputy, if you will come forward and I'll swear you in. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be
Okay, you guys, we're going to be able to listen to the first. I think they said there was 3 witnesses, but I literally think I only seen just this guy testifying because he is the one that showed up at the house. But you see how calm she acted? She leaning towards her attorney like they best buddies, best friends, like she came here and she's hiding, she ducking, she acting like she's crazy. I mean, I know she got to be a little bit something going on in her mind. What do you guys think? Because she said that she sacrificed her kids, and I don't know what for. I guess to have a life. I tell you guys all the time, you know, everybody be like, this women power. Not all women are the same, you guys. There's some women that, guess what? This world and this life and a boy or a man or something comes before the child and they will leave. I mean, it's weird that she would have 3 kids, the age 12. I think it was the age 12, 13, and 10, 12, and 13, something like that. We'll get the age. We'll get the details in a minute. Let's continue to watch this.
Thank you, Your Honor, and thank you, Deputy. Deputy, are you employed?
Yes.
Where are you employed?
Oakland County Sheriff's
put
Office.
his name on the record, spell the last name.
Oh, I apologize. Could you state and spell your name?
Deputy Quincy Curtis, QUINCY CURTIS.
Thank you. Where are you employed?
Oakland County Sheriff's Office, Pontiac Substation.
And how long have you been in the Pontiac substation?
Just under 6 years.
And what's your current position there?
Patrol deputy.
Okay, can you walk me through what you do in that role?
I patrol the city of Pontiac, answer calls for service.
Okay. And were you working on February 14, 2025 around 1:30 p.m.?
Yes,
And were you dispatched to 660 Lydia Lane?
yes,
And is that in the city of Pontiac,
yes,
County of Oakland?
yes.
What was the nature of the dispatch?
It was a welfare check.
And did you arrive at 660 Lydia Lane?
Yes.
What, if anything, did you observe upon arrival?
Upon arrival, I made contact with the landlord for the residence. He asked us to do a welfare check. He hasn't heard from the tenant in some time, hadn't received payment in some time, so he was requesting a welfare check.
From your understanding, had there been an attempt for a welfare check earlier?
The day prior.
Was it successful? Do you know the circumstances of why it wasn't successful?
Yeah, deputies on scene weren't able to see anything inside, weren't able to gain access. Landlord came back the following day with the locksmith.
Okay. And what, if anything, did the locksmith do?
He was able to open the residence.
Can you describe what the residence looks like for the court?
It is an apartment-style townhouse with a garage underneath the residence. Where we were inside was through the garage, which with the residence would be upstairs above the garage.
And the locksmith was able to open the garage, correct?
Correct.
Upon walking in, what, if anything, did you observe?
I observed a large mold stain coming through the ceiling of the garage, which had been right under the residence. Through the garage door that was open, I immediately observed trash and feces all over the floor and a very extreme foul smell coming from the apartment.
And the garage is attached to the unit, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you enter the unit?
Yes.
Initial observations upon entering?
Right away, I observed a staircase to my left, a bedroom over to the right. I observed just trash piled everywhere, feces and cobwebs throughout the entire downstairs, and garbage trailed all the way up the stairs.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach the witness with the stipulated exhibits?
You may.
Thank you. I'm going to hand you the admitted exhibits 1 through 20. If you could look at the first picture, what do we see in that picture?
First picture would be the entrance to the garage.
Okay. And exhibit 2, what are we looking at?
The inside of the garage.
And walk us through the next picture.
That is just through the garage door from picture 2, with the staircase on the left and the bedroom door on the right, and the piles of trash on the floor.
What else did you notice on the staircase itself beyond the garbage?
I will notice there was feces on the staircase as well.
Okay. And then ultimately, did you walk up the
I
stairway?
did.
What, if anything, did you observe when you walked up the stairway?
When I got to the top of the stairway, I observed, while I reached, it was a living area. There was a couch in the middle that had trash piled on top of it, almost 4 feet in the air. Pizza boxes all over the place. There was just piles of feces. There was cobwebs hanging from the ceiling that you had to walk through.
Would you identify that? How would you identify that area that you're walking in? Was that the living space?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And then what did the living space, did it connect to any other parts of the home?
The living space connected to the kitchen. It was just kind of a follow-on room, which then had multiple bedrooms and half them off for the same.
Okay. Starting with the kitchen, what were some of your observations within the kitchen?
Counters were completely covered in trash. Sink heads covered in trash. There was cobwebs from the ceiling almost all the way down to the counters. Feces throughout the kitchen as well.
When you refer to trash, were they in trash bags? What were you looking at?
Just empty pizza boxes, empty food wrappers, just piled up.
Was there any odor while you were walking through the home?
Yes, it was very foul. Our initial thought was we were checking the apartment for a dead body.
Now, you testified that there were also bedrooms that were in that living space or connected to that living space. Can you describe the bedrooms? How many were there?
I believe there's 3 bedrooms. They all appear to be the same. Lots of trash. Both bathrooms were covered in trash and feces as well.
Were there beds in those bedrooms?
One of them.
And how about the bed? Was there a bed set on that? How do you describe the bed?
There was a mattress on the bed frame. The mattress was stained and extremely dirty, had wrappers on it, wrappers all around it.
Okay. At any point were you attempting to clear the home?
Yes.
Can you describe to the court what clearing the home means?
Just ensuring that there's no dead body inside. We're trying to look and make sure that find anybody that might be inside.
While you were doing that, did anything unusual happen?
Yes.
What, if anything, happened?
As I was going through the living area, I came to a door on my right. I went to go open it and it was locked. I saw 2 more doors past that. As I began to go to the other 2 doors, I heard crying from inside that locked door.
Did it sound like crying from a number of people or one person? What did it sound like?
At the time, I believe it was multiple children.
What, if anything, did you do at that time?
At that time, I turned back around and addressed that locked door. I let them know I was the police, that I was not going to hurt them. They were safe, but they needed to come outside so we could check on their welfare.
Did they?
At first, they did not come outside. I was giving them multiple orders to come outside. At that time, a door from the bedroom behind me opened, and the oldest child exited that bedroom. He had his hands up in the air, and he identified himself to us. I told him to tell the children to come outside, which he ordered them to come outside.
Okay. Now, what were your initial observations of the oldest child?
Oldest child, he came out without a shirt on. He had blue pants on that were covered in dirt. I observed his toenails to be extremely long. He was having a hard time walking straight.
What was his demeanor when you approached him?
Nervous. He was talking very fast, and he seemed frightened.
And ultimately, was he able to get the other children out of the bathroom?
Yes.
What did you observe happening?
The bathroom door opened, and I observed 2 females, children in the bathroom. They appeared hunched over. Their arms were connected. They were staying very close to each other. They would just cry. I don't really understand what they were trying to say. They were both looking down and wouldn't look at us, and they kept their arms tight to their chest.
Did you see the bathroom that they exited from?
Yes, after I got them to, after several minutes of getting them to come out of the bathroom, I did check it.
Describe what the bathroom looked like, please.
The bathroom was completely filled with trash and feces on the floor. The toilet was completely filled up to the brim with feces, and they were coming off the top. The bathroom tub had feces in it as well.
Do you know where the children were in the bathroom when they weren't coming out? Like where in the bathroom they were hiding?
I don't know for sure where they were at. I did hear the shower curtain that was connected to the tub move before they exited.
Okay, for those of you that came in late, we are going over the preliminary court hearing for, her name is Kelli Bryant. She left her kids for years and just had food delivered once a week to them. That's how these kids survived. But, I guess they're charging her with abandonment, putting the kids at risk, which is horrible, in horrible conditions. This young lady is in court. She's sitting right next to her attorney, and she's acting like she's don't have it all. We're listening, and did you guys hear him say the oldest kid came out of the room across the hall with his hands up, and his toenails were so long he couldn't even walk straight. He can barely walk. And they were living in this filth that the mama left them, and they didn't have, I mean, oh my goodness, this is horrible. This is horrible. Let's continue to listen.
What happened next after they got out of the bathroom?
We had all three of the children together, and we were in the living space at that time. We were going to go have them have a seat on patrol cars so we could figure out what was going on, and I instructed them to start walking downstairs.
Anything noteworthy of them walking down the stairs?
Yes, all three of them appeared to have a hard time walking. The two younger children were very hunched over, again, keeping their arms tight to their body. They appeared to just hold hands or stay connected at all times. They were extremely uncomfortable with deputies walking behind them. They would turn to the side and do a side shuffle. They wouldn't walk, they wouldn't turn backs to us. So they were walking like back to back down the stairs.
And is this referring to the middle child and the youngest child? Describe the scene to the court. How many deputies were in the home at this time?
After we got down to the garage, there was at least 10 deputies there at this time.
Did you attempt to calm the children down?
Yes.
Were you successful in doing that?
Not very much.
Okay, why do you say that?
They just did not appear to become any more calm. They were very frightened. It appeared they hadn't had interaction with other people.
Okay. Did you speak to them?
I did.
Who did you speak to in particular?
I spoke to all three.
Okay. Now, starting with the oldest child, where did you speak to him?
I had him have a seat in the back of my car, and then I spoke to him there.
Okay. Did you ask him when Miss Bryant was, or where his mom was?
I did.
What, if anything, did you learn?
The oldest child informed me that he lives at the apartment.
I'm not going to object to hearsay at this time.
Your Honor, I believe this would fall under MRE 8031, present tense impression. The statement describing the condition or the event while it was immediately happening.
Your Honor, I guess for purposes of exam, it's probably appropriate on the present sense impression.
I understand the nature of the objection, but it would be permitted.
Thank you. Continue, please.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Did you ask him when the last time that the defendant lived in the home?
I did, 2020 to 2021.
Did he make any other statements to you?
He informed me that he lives there along with his two sisters.
Did you speak with the middle child?
Yes.
Where did you speak to her?
Also in the backseat of a different patrol car.
Did she make any statements to you?
I was just trying to get the names of the two of them. The two youngest were together in the back of the car. They were having a hard time spelling their names to me. They had to consult each other to tell me their names.
Did you ask them for their dates of birth?
I did.
Were they able to provide that to you?
After some time when consulting each other, they were.
What happened after they were placed in the patrol cars? They were sitting there.
I was very concerned for their welfare. I called Star EMS to come to the scene to check on them.
Why were you scared for their welfare?
Based off of my observations inside that apartment, I didn't think it was a suitable place for anybody to be living.
Did Star EMS arrive?
They did.
And were the children, were they transported to a hospital?
They were.
Which hospital?
McLaren Oakland in downtown Pontiac.
And did you follow the ambulance?
I did.
Did you go inside the hospital?
Yes.
Can you describe the children when they were in the hospital?
Yes. We took them out of the patrol cars, walked them inside. They were still having a very difficult time walking, hunched over. Arms
Would you say that's for
bodies.
all, I apologize, would you say that's for all three of the children or specific children?
Specifically the younger two, with the hunched over arms to the chest.
What happened after that?
We walked them inside. They went to the emergency department first, where they had their vitals checked. Nurses in the ER were also concerned that they hadn't had hygiene supplies in some time. So the children were transported upstairs, provided showers and general hygiene.
Did you, what did the children do with those hygiene supplies?
They were able to take a shower, brush their teeth, use the bathroom.
Is there anything noteworthy or anything that you noticed while they were provided those supplies?
Yes, the nurses were informing us that they were having.
Yeah, and I'm gonna object to your saying, I don't think that qualifies.
They want to rephrase the question.
Of course.
That's his name.
Did you make any observations of the children using the supplies, the hygiene supplies?
I made an observation of the children having a hard time flushing the toilet. They didn't understand how to flush the toilet.
And anything noteworthy about toothbrush and toothpaste?
They're just unfamiliar.
Okay, I see that the defense team tried to stop this officer from saying that the nurses was informing them that the kids don't even know how to brush their teeth. They don't even know how. They were having a hard time. And I heard him say that the youngest one was hunched over more. Like, I mean, when he said that, it seemed like, you know, they were probably going back into like a animal state, a caveman state to me. I mean, I'm just saying.
Were the children offered food at the hospital?
They were.
Anything noteworthy that happened when food arrived?
They did not eat at first. They waited until all three of them were together. The two youngest asked permission of the older brother if they were allowed to eat, and then they would only eat if everyone stepped out of the room.
How long would you say that you were at the hospital?
Several hours.
What happened where were you, I guess, while they were at the hospital?
I was just trying to make them the most comfortable, so I was standing outside of the room. I contacted CPS, and I was just waiting for their arrival.
Okay. One moment, Your Honor.
This is crazy. This is
Make any
crazy.
observations of the bathroom after the children brushed their teeth,
I don't recall.
specifically in the sink? Any observations?
I remember the sink had blood in it.
Now, going back to 660 Lydia Avenue, when you were doing the walkthrough of the condo, did you see any hygiene products in the home?
I don't recall seeing anything.
Any toilet paper?
I don't recall.
And were the children wearing shoes in the home when you assessed them?
No.
Your Honor, no further questions at this time.
Thank you. Ms. Kelli Bryant or Mr. Rupp?
Thank you. Good morning.
Deputy Curtis, the photos that you referenced, that you went through and identified, when were those taken?
They were taken after the children were transported to the hospital.
And do you know how many deputies had already walked through that home when the photos were taken?
I don't know the exact number.
More than 10?
I'm not positive. I left.
Oh, okay, so you left and followed EMS to the hospital? Okay. How many deputies were on scene at the time that you left?
Around 10, probably.
Okay, and did they all go inside the home?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Now, you indicated that when you first entered the home and you attempted to see, do the walkthrough and see if anybody was in there, you then heard the voices from the one bathroom. Is that where you heard the cries from, or?
Crying, correct.
Okay, and then
I got to ask this question, you guys. Look how the mother is leaning over, looking at what the her attorney is writing, and she's writing down some stuff. I mean, she looks like a pure lunatic. I mean, hey. Yes. Let's keep on listening. We're coming to the end of it.
were you calling out for those children to come out?
Yes,
And did they respond to you at all?
they continue crying.
Okay, and then did the oldest child, you stated he came out of a bedroom, correct?
Correct.
Did he come out upon command, or did he just come out on his own?
He came out.
On his own?
Correct.
Okay, and then he told his sisters to then exit as well, correct?
Correct. I instructed him to.
Okay, and he followed that command, correct?
Yes.
And he asked his sisters to come out?
Yes.
And then did they come out?
Yes.
Okay. And you already testified that they looked frightened, correct?
Yes.
And you would agree with me, you were a stranger to them?
Yes.
You had never met these children before, right? And you were in your law enforcement uniform?
Yes.
Right, so they would have seen that you were a police officer, correct?
Correct.
Right. And would you agree with me, do you know if anyone had ever been called to this home before? Meaning, is there a history of police interaction with this home?
Besides, like we mentioned the day prior, I'm not positive.
Okay. And so, to your knowledge, it wouldn't be an ordinary thing to have police officers or deputies at that particular home, correct?
Correct.
Right. It would be something unfamiliar to these children?
Yes.
Right. And how long had you been a deputy for?
Just under 6 years.
Right. And is it common for folks to be frightened or upset when they see the police or interact with the police?
I would say situation dependent.
Okay. So it happens, correct?
Correct.
All right. Not everybody is happy or excited to see you. Is that correct?
Right.
And some are frightened.
Right.
Now, after transporting the children to the hospital, you were speaking to these children, correct, all along?
Yes.
And did they seem to understand what you were telling them?
Yes.
And were they speaking back to you? Were they responding to you?
Softly, yes.
Okay, but they had appropriate words, correct?
Yes.
And they could, I guess, have an appropriate conversation with you, if that makes sense?
Somewhat, yes.
Okay. And you arrived to the hospital, and the children went in and they were offered hygiene products, correct?
Yes.
And I'm assuming you were not present when they actually took showers. Is that fair?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, and nobody else was either. Is that correct?
The nurses at the hospital.
The nurses were there? Okay. And the children took their showers and they put on different clothes, correct?
Yes.
And were they interacting with the nurses as well?
Yes.
All right, and they were verbal with them and speaking to them, correct? And was this consistent throughout the time that you were there? Meaning that they were communicating?
It was on and off.
Okay. And you also indicated that the sisters, or the middle child and the youngest child, they were talking to each other about when their birthdays were,
They were,
but they were able to give you the information.
eventually.
And it was the correct information.
I believe so.
All right. And what about the oldest? Was he able to provide his details?
Yes.
You were not in there when they, I guess, brushed their teeth, or you indicated that there was some blood in the sink. You don't know how that arrived there. Is that fair?
I went in the bathroom after the fact.
And you didn't watch what was going on. Is that fair? Did the children eat?
Yes.
And what did they eat?
Little Caesar's pizza.
Okay, is that what they requested?
They did request that.
So they were able to communicate to you what they'd like to eat. Is that correct?
Yes.
May I have one moment, Cameron?
Hold on, you guys. You know what? I am surprised that the kids was able to tell them what they wanted to eat. Now, here's the thing. I don't know if you guys know, but when they were cleaning this house, they brought boxes and boxes of boxes and boxes of already eaten old Little Caesars pizza boxes out of the house. Like, this mother would actually bring the pizza and set it on the porch, or have DoorDash set pizza on the porch. And she just gone about her business. She was like, shoot, eat, you come out and get it and eat it. But I think she was like I said, she was in the area just blocks away. So she had taken out the batteries in the fire alarm, the fire alarm system, so that if the alarms go off, the police wouldn't come, Anyway, let's finish listening.
I have nothing else. Thank you, Deputy.
Okay. So she was living a double life with the man at a club on TikTok, Instagram. She wasn't all that crazy. She just didn't want the responsibility of the kids, Yolanda said. Now, Yolanda's in the chat room, and that's what Yolanda Rudolph had said. You know what, you guys? This is something that came up while we were going over the Naziah case, and I wanted to go ahead and start working on this case a little bit, because the whole house was tore up, Tina. The whole house was, but I mean, what can you expect when you have 3 kids living on their own by themselves, and they don't know when mama's coming back? Mama's like, don't go out the house. And you know what I find strange? I know they can't say the kid's name, but the mother had put in her phone, and I don't know if you all seen this, she didn't name the kids. She didn't say, this is Jeremy, this is Sarah, and this is Paula. She was like the oldest child, the middle child, and the youngest child. She act like they was not even children. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, human is like the oldest, the youngest, the middle. The oldest, youngest, in the middle. And the kids, you guys, I'm gonna share this with you. In the phone, They put for mom's number, they say the greatest mom in the world. Remember when we were talking and I told you no matter how you treat a child, that child is going to love the mama and the daddy. They're going to protect the mama and daddy because they think that since she birthed them, she loves them. Yeah, the child put the greatest mom in the world. I don't know if she wrote the greatest mom in the world and say, this is my number. That's probably what happened. So now, you know, when you push right there, you're going to contact me and you can contact me. So she had contact with the kids. So you guys, let's talk about this a little bit. Let me see if I can go back. Let me see if I can go back and get the beginning. Hold on. No. No, we can't go back and get the beginning. I looked it up real quick. We can't go back. And this is in Pontiac. And I think Pontiac is in Detroit. Is Pontiac in Detroit? No, Pontiac is not located within the city of Detroit. Pontiac is a separate city located about 26 miles northwest of downtown Detroit. It's considered part of the Metro Detroit area and is in the county seat of Oakland. Okay. But Pontiac is, okay, now this place says Pontiac is part of Detroit. I think Pontiac is in Michigan. Let's just say Michigan. Let's not say Detroit. It's near Detroit. It's, anyway. So we're still dealing with Michigan. Michigan has got some things going on. Let me find what Kelli Bryant said. What 4 people testified in the hearing. We only heard one. I couldn't find the other ones, and that's fine. They can't say nothing but pretty much what he said. They're all going to say the same thing. So let me read you guys what they said. The Oakland County mom accused of abandoning her kids and forcing them to live alone in a filthy condition for years is now headed for trial. Kelli Bryant, 34, is facing 3 counts. She's 34 years of age. She is facing 3 counts of first-degree child abuse after authorities found her 3 children. The ages is the boy is 15 years of age, and then she's got a girl that's 13 and a girl that's 12, living alone. She also faces welfare fraud charges. So Bryant appeared for the preliminary examination on May the 16th. Today's the 19th, so that was 3 days ago, you guys. So that was Friday when she went to court, where a judge ruled, and I told you guys, preliminaries do not last 3, 4, 5 days. They usually, they just say the more detailed things, the clip notes of what was said, what was heard, what was seen, and the judge say yes or no. They was not going to get out of having a trial for this lady. She was going to trial no matter what. She was sitting there the whole entire time. She was sitting there. Matter of fact, let me see if I can go over to the thing so you guys can watch her. And I'm going to take the volume out. Okay, I'm going to take the volume out and let it play. Just so you can just pay attention to her whole demeanor while we talk. Okay? So, this is Kelli Bryant. You see how but I wanted to share something with you guys. Okay, Channel 7, WXYZ. This is what they reported. She looks disconnected like she lived the same life growing up, like she was abandoned too. She probably was. This is what she said. She made a comment. She said, I sacrificed my children. Mom in Pontiac child abandonment case. This is what she said, you guys. That's why I wanted you guys to just watch her, and we'll talk about what happened here. This is Kelli Bryant. She says, I sacrificed my children. That is a direct quote. Detectives read in court from a 34-year-old Kelli Bryant during the preliminary. So somebody else, like they said, they had 4 witnesses. That evidence and more resulted in the judge ultimately sending Bryant to trial on 3 counts of first-degree child abuse and 3 counts of welfare fraud. So she says, I sacrificed my children. Okay. The evidence and more resulted in the judge. Okay. Bryant is the mother of 3 children found abandoned, living in mold, feces, and squalor this past February. So this just happened in February. And we got March, April, May, 3 months, and they already had the preliminary examination. Okay. Yes, abandoned like generational curse, no connection. The most notable observation was what happened to be feces covered their clothing and their hair. So they did not let us hear Detective John Brish. He said that there was poop, because that's what that is, poop in the kids. Oh, wow. Well, they've got another one right here. I wonder if I can get that. I wonder if I can grab that. Let me see if we can just hear it. Maybe I can click on it and we can hear it. Hold on. On February the 14th. Dang, that was on Valentine's Day. Okay, hold on, you guys. Let's see what we can hear from him and see if we can hear it. I like to hear it from the horse's mouth. Okay.
Any initial or noteworthy observations that you made with the children?
My first observation with the 2 youngest children, 2 females, they were having physical difficulties walking. They seemed to be having
I don't know if you guys can hear it.
trouble with sunlight. Their eyes were visibly reacting. They were standing very close to each other. The way they were walking was strange, almost as if they were walking at their heels, kind of huddled up against each other. Their posture was severely slouched.
He's saying their posture was severely slouched.
Covering their clothing and their hair and strong, hunched over as they walked.
Were they wearing shoes when you saw them?
I believe so. They did not appear to be, may not have been fitting in the shoes properly. They appeared to be in severe pain as they were walking.
What was their demeanor like when you saw them?
Either they were petrified or stimulated when they were walking.
When you arrived, were evidence technicians there?
Not quite.
Okay. Were they called?
Yes, initially, I requested the crime lab to respond. Ultimately, I was informed that an evidence technician would be responding to.
Why, hey, do you guys want to hear this other technician? I don't know if he's going to be able to say anything that we.
Any initial or noteworthy observations that you made with the children?
My first observation with the 2 youngest children, 2 females, they were having physical difficulties walking. They seemed to be having trouble
He said they were having trouble with sunlight.
Up against each other, their posture was severely slouched. The most notable observation was what appeared to be feces.
15, 13, and 12.
Were they wearing shoes when you saw them?
I believe so. They did not appear to be, feet may not have been fitting the shoes properly. They did appear to be in severe pain as they were walking.
What was their demeanor like when you saw them? When you arrived, were evidence technicians there?
Not quite.
Okay. Were they called?
Yes, initially, I requested the crime lab to respond. Ultimately, I was informed that an evidence technician would be responding.
Hold on, you guys.
Were they advised to wear hazmat suits and gas masks?
Yes.
Why?
On my approach, I asked the deputies, were they certain that there were no other children inside the home? I've never smelled a home that smelled that bad without a decomposing body present.
Oh my goodness. He said he never smelt a home that smelt that bad without a decomposing body present.
They described some of their initial observations of the scene, which I relayed when I requested the evidence technician.
And ultimately, did they have the hazmat suits when they arrived?
Initially, we had one evidence technician cross the scene who was wearing a full.
This is horrible.
Is that typical?
Absolutely.
Why do you use a hazmat suit? What does that do?
Because the environment is so dangerous that even for a short period of time, they experience significant health concerns.
And from your investigation, it's your understanding how many years the children were living in that environment?
4 to 5 years. Okay, so
any initial or noteworthy, what if anything did she say?
She describes one instance when she spoke to Samuel in the garage, lowest level of the condo, but didn't enter the home from there. She described.
and they were living in a condo.
For having food delivered to the front porch while she was waiting for the nearby vehicle to watch Samuel, the oldest child, pick up the food.
So the boy would have been 10.
She had mentioned a couple instances where a smoke detector had been going off.
And one of the girls would have been 8, and one of them would have been 7 years of age by themselves. 7, 8, and 10.
Didn't find her children there. So it was her own act. What she admitted to going into the home and damaging or pulling out the batteries of the smoke detector so it wouldn't go off anymore. As to not attract any attention from neighbors.
So from your understanding with that, there was not a functioning smoke detector after that.
So the mother says she went to the home and took the batteries out.
Did you ask how she would communicate with her children?
Primarily through text.
And they had phones, is that right?
Yes.
Did she say that she provided those phones to them?
Yes.
Okay. Did she say what type of phones or how she did that, how she paid for that?
3 phones that she was able to provide the children.
Did you ask her about her last communication with her children before they were removed? What, if anything, did she say?
That the oldest child had texted her that police had arrived, and she confirmed that her response was short and popular.
Did she say why she said that?
So the boy had told her
Did you ask
that
her
the
if
police
anyone
had
knew,
arrived.
that if the children were alone in the home?
Yes.
What did she say?
She admitted deliberately hiding that information and stated that she didn't want anybody to know that her children were living there.
Did she ever note concerns about her well-being to you during your interview with her? Did she make any comments about how this would impact her? What, if anything, did she say?
Come on.
In my initial interview at the mining substation, and after she had requested that I return to speak with her once she was at the house I knew in jail, I would speak on the severity of the situation and my concerns for the children and their path recovery.
She's worried about helping herself.
Roughly how often was she asking those type of questions to you? Is that surprising to you? Why?
Myself and everybody involved in this investigation were deeply bothered by the condition and circumstances in which the children were living, and for her to be
Wow.
concerned about her own
I want to hear when she say,
her future.
and how old was she when she had her first? Okay, well, hold on.
Now, you testified that
She's
she had made
34.
a comment
So
that she was
34,
selfish. Could you
take away
elaborate on what she said?
15. So she was 15 when she first had the first kid. Well,
Would it refresh your recollection if you were a
she's
future
34.
reporter? Your Honor, may I approach?
So hold on.
Did that refresh your recollection?
So she was 19. I'm
What did
sorry.
the defendant say?
Yeah, Zena said it. Probably 18 or 19.
Kelli admitted to hurting her children. She said, I hurt my children. And she admitted to becoming selfish and ultimately sacrificing her children.
There it is. She said she hurt her children. She sacrificed her children. That's what I
Any
wanted.
initial or
That's crazy. Let me see.
any initial or noteworthy?
Yeah. On Friday, 3 months later, their mother was in court physically for the first time. So this was the preliminary examination, you guys. The prosecutors brought forth the detectives who found her children and who were interviewed Bryant herself. Burr said he'll never forget meeting Bryant at the police station 1 hour after they found her kids hiding in a bathtub full of feces. Her appearance was the most surprising. Her hair was done. She was wearing what appeared to be clean. She had long fake nails. Bryant was always living within walking distance of the children. She hadn't touched them or given them any hygiene products for years. She would have food dropped off to them about once a week. She knew that her actions were selfish, she said. That's her wording, and it made her children sick, and that she ultimately sacrificed her children for her own purposes. According to Bryant's children were found in soiled clothes, hunched over with toenails several inches long. The two youngest girls started their menstrual cycles in the home and were only given pads once. Okay. Bryant admitted to telling the children to never leave or open the front door, purposefully installing a deep fear in them. In those interviews, the court heard from all three victims of their irrational fear of strangers, pedophiles, and being blackmailed. That's something else that she told the kids. She told them, because you're black, things is going to happen to you. Because you're kids, there's going to be pedophiles, because strangers will do something. So anytime they were scared of people. So let's see what else they said. Further evidence brought forth revealed that Bryant would communicate mostly to the oldest boy through sporadically texts. He had his mother listed in his phone as the world's greatest mom. She had her children listed as my oldest, kid 1 and kid 2. She said I will speak on the severity of the situation and my concerns for the children and their path to recover and moving forward. And typically, her response would be, is there anything I can do to help myself? The detective said that Bryant told them she lied to all of her family to keep her children hidden. She took the batteries out of the smoke detectors in the home, so there was no risk of the fire department or any police officer ever coming by. Okay, now let me see, because this is the prosecutor. Let me see what they said at the.
First, I'd like to announce that we have authorized 3 charges of first-degree child abuse against Kelli Bryant, a 34-year-old resident of Pontiac. My office has already advised the court in the neglect proceedings that we will be asking to terminate the defendant's parental rights. In every case of child abuse, my office focuses first and foremost on the best interest of the child or children and on holding those responsible for abuse accountable. The three children in this case suffered unimaginable abuse and neglect over a long period of time. Thankfully, they've now been rescued from that, and our first priority has been and will continue to be their safety and well-being. I want to briefly address, though, why we're here. Since the first announcement over the weekend by the sheriff, this case has captured the attention of the people across our community, our county, our state, and even internationally, because people are rightfully concerned about the welfare of these children. And we're holding this press conference because, like all other decisions, we balance the interests of public safety, media attention and inquiries, and balancing everyone's right to a fair trial, which is why the events and facts that are disclosed here today are strictly confined to what's already been placed on the record in the swear-to this morning in the 50th District Court. When their circumstances became public, including the photos of the home, although law enforcement did not identify the defendant, she was quickly identified on social media and also has been reported in other news media outlets, which is why we are naming her today. We have recently, luckily, been fortunate enough to, for the first time ever, hire our public information officer, Jeff Watruck, who's in the back of the room. Many of you have already spoken to and will continue to, and we're lucky to have him. The children are currently staying with a relative. All 3 children received immediate medical attention at a local hospital, and they were interviewed by trained forensic interviewers at Care House. Considering what they've experienced, they appear to be doing okay. Obviously, the trauma here is significant, and my office, including our victim services section, will make sure these children are supported during this process.
Wow.
Today, the charges are 3 counts of child abuse in the first degree. This is the most serious charge for child abuse, and if convicted, Ms. Bryant could face a sentence of up to life in prison.
Oh, okay.
In the swear-to this morning, on the record, it was stated.
So even though it's just child abuse, she could be looking at life, you guys.
Was living at the home, which I'm not disclosing the address at this time, in Pontiac, Michigan, with her 4 children. At some point,
she said
2020 and 2021, the suspect moved out of her home, leaving 3 of her children abandoned in that location, while 1 of her children went to live with their father. On February 14th, 2025, police were called to the home by the landlord.
Hold on. She said 4 children, 2021. Hold on. Where was she at? Oh, wow.
First, I'd like to...
It don't go back. Come on.
Yes. Multiple fathers or 1 father? Those are the statements made in the swear-to this morning. And again, these are allegations.
Okay. Hold on, you guys. Okay.
And again, these are allegations. I do want to point out and thank all the officers that were on scene that day. I personally viewed the videos and images and was struck at what a difficult situation it was, but in the face of that difficulty, offered compassion to these kids. I also want to thank Detective John Brish and Lieutenant Sam Marsban for their dedication in working this case. And of course, the assistant prosecutors involved, Chief of Administration Betsy Haig, Chief of our SBU Sarah Green, APA Lauren Benninger, Chief of the Juvenile Division Kelly Collins, and APA Kanika Ferenczi for their diligent efforts in this case. At present, we've not been presented with a request for criminal charges against any other individuals. That does not mean that won't happen in the future. I just can't speak to it at this point.
Okay.
Morally, there is plenty of responsibility to go around for how this was allowed to happen. However, these 3 kids were entrusted to the care of their mother, Kelli Bryant, and the evidence suggests that she effectively abandoned them to a revolting pit of refuse and squalor. There must be consequences for those actions. The defendant is presently in custody. The 3 children in this case were interviewed at Care House, and I want to emphasize how important Care House is to this community. These kids were interviewed in a safe environment by an experienced, trained forensic interviewer, and these interviews are important in all child abuse cases. They allow each child the chance to tell us their story without the influence of the abuser and without using leading questions that could taint their testimony. I can't emphasize enough how important Care House is. If you suspect a child is abused or neglected, you too can report this to CPS. The
Care House interviews, the children did not seem to be suffering from severe mental harm, you guys.
And I urge anyone who suspects
that's what the defense
that a child is being
argues.
Abused or neglected to report that using that number. We need to make sure that every child is safe and well cared for. And before I take questions, I just want to remind you that these charges, again, are only allegations, and the defendant is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty. Questions?
Not having been to the area, neighbors, anybody, I mean, I think what maybe people struggle with is how
They're going to talk about what the neighbors said.
by their mother, yes, but how they did not even venture out of the home, or just nobody knowing that they were there, or if you had context into how that could happen.
I can only comment on what's been placed on the record. That's my ethical duty. But I will say that we see time and time again, victims of severe abuse of all ages make decisions that don't seem reasonable to us. And what we know is that that's very common. And there's a multitude of reasons why they didn't leave the home. We just don't know that yet. Yes.
So yeah, they were 7, 10,
They have. Yes.
like 7, 8, and 10.
I think it's already public record that of the 4 kids, there are 2 fathers.
4 kids, 2 fathers.
Yes.
1 kid already moved out or stayed with his dad.
That's a difficult question and a really good question. I said yesterday, and I said this to the sheriff personally, we say a lot, this is the worst I've ever seen. And I've stopped saying that because every time I say that, I see something worse. It was unbelievable what they were living with
Yeah.
for years.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. It wouldn't be surroundings where you would want any living creature living in. Creature or animal, or particularly human beings. I mean, these kids, not to have even basic hygiene tools. And I guess what stands out the most for me is no love. There was nobody there to care for them for between 3 and 4 years. No parent, nobody physically present to let them know that they were safe and they were loved.
Right.
Yes.
Did she have any prior contact with CPS or prior criminal record?
I can't comment on that.
Is she being held on any outstanding charges, or is it just on this and then she'll be arraigned tomorrow?
We are not aware of any other holds or matters that she would be held under. At this moment, she's being held because of these pending charges. Now they're official, and she'll be arraigned, I believe, tomorrow.
Well, in context, appreciating what you said about, you mentioned that he would text his mother, one of the older boy, so he had access to a phone apparently. necessarily, but.
All the children had access to the phones. They all had their own phones.
So
They had their own phones. She probably had government phones.
maybe she dropped some food off weekly, or can you talk about how they survived if they didn't leave the home, how often she came and where she was staying?
There was no, according to the evidence that's been placed on the record, there was no physical contact whatsoever. And I don't think it's accurate to say that they had food dropped off weekly. Sometimes, right. And sometimes it was longer than that.
But
and
she was the one distributing?
No, not all the time.
Okay.
Not all the time.
You had said the restroom was not, maybe properly functioning in there, but do we know if there was heat or air conditioning in the summer?
I don't have that.
Yeah.
That has not been.
I wonder, was the electricity working?
But I do not believe that there was. I believe there was heat enough so that the children were at least able to live there. If not, as you know, given the cold temperatures, there would have been signs of
hypothermia.
To death.
Yeah.
Where was she staying?
I don't have that information. Not there.
And obviously, you charge her, so you think I'm assuming that obviously there's competence, so not that there's ever a reason for something of this horrific nature, but any inferences to the why did she just decided to abandon her kids beyond some might think mental issues, but obviously not if you're charging her.
Right. Without commenting particularly on this case, as the prosecutor over the last over 4 years, I've been asked, and I hear repeatedly that question on all of the terrible, violent, atrocious acts that we see, the why, and the answer is we don't know why. We can't get in the mind of somebody else,
right?
But we do know what the evidence shows, and we have the law, and nobody who is not found competent can stand trial. So I can't comment on that right now. But just to say that sometimes there isn't a why.
Sometimes there isn't a why, she said. Wow. Yeah, that's right.
I can't comment on that.
It's not being cooperative.
The defendant has an absolute right to remain silent, so any comment I would make on whether or not she's spoken to the police would be a violation of her rights.
Thank you. Longer term, can you share what the plan is for the children? Some may wonder if families.
And the kids are with family members.
How they didn't know about. I'm not trying to assess blame by asking, but.
Okay.
Were they prior? How did they not know?
Right.
There are a lot of questions.
Good question. And the thing that
she can't really tell us nothing else. Listen
about it. And just the fact that someone had to go in there and clean it. It's the emotional toll. But let me introduce you to Kiara Mills and her North Cleaning Service and how she was the one that went in there. Take a look.
As I was walking down the crazy stairs with all the feces, like going to the basement, it was makeup smear. I had to stop and I was looking. And then I looked around and I'm like I visualized whoever, it was the kid that did that. They were screaming for help.
32-year-old Kiara Mills, who owns North Cleaning Service, had to clean this Pontiac apartment in which 3 kids lived in for nearly 5 years with no parental supervision, barely enough food, and whose mother is now facing child abuse charges. You knew what you were getting into. I mean, this was a bad house.
This bad? That's not even the word.
Kiara remembers last Saturday when she got the call to clean the place.
So all night I couldn't sleep. I'm telling my kids, I have 5 by the way. I'm telling my kids, I'm like, you guys, do you guys remember? They're like, yeah. I'm like, I have to go clean that house.
It took Kiara and her uncle nearly 8 hours to clean it.
I went over the walls with all the feces on the walls. I went over the walls at least about 10 times. No over exaggeration because I had to use SOS pad that I was scraping the paint off.
Kiara didn't say how much she got paid, but it wasn't much. And the house is still not ready to move into. Would you live in that house now after you clean it?
No. And I have a good cleaning services and I still wouldn't. The floor has to get gutted out. The memories that's holding in that house, I will forever think about it.
the emotional toll just going into this house where those 3 kids lived for years is really unthinkable. You can see over here sticker on the home from the Pontiac Building Department, meaning that by law, nobody can live into this house. All the appliances had to be taken out. The floor still needs fixing. There's still plenty to do over here. Now, a little update on the mother who's in the Oakland County Jail right now on a $250 million bond, facing 3 counts of felony child abuse. She'll be in court on March 4th. That's the next time she'll be in court. And as far as Kiera Mills, the person that had to clean this place, well, apparently she's one of the most popular cleaners around. She posted a little bit on Facebook, and she's got about a couple of million views. And she says she's booked up for weeks into the future. I am live and I'm in Pontiac. I'll send it back to you.
Well, Charlie, with those conditions, we know that some county workers even had to use hazmat suits to go in there and bring things out. Why wasn't the place condemned? And do we even know how the health of the children at this point, how they're doing?
Well, a couple things. First of all, the hazmat from the Oakland County Sheriff's Department, they went in there with hazmats. Kiera actually went in there. She said that she had all kinds of masks and things. We saw a little video there, but it was very difficult for her. She had a bunch of gloves and things when she was in there as well. So that's one thing. As far as the kids are safe right now. They're living with family members, and we understand that they are okay, at least physically okay. Mentally, we just don't know. I sense that we'll get a little more information about the mother and the relationship and just what happened at this place at the preliminary exam, which it's set for the end of March. I have a feeling it's going to be adjourned. It's the first time up. But again, there's still a lot more questions to be answered about why a mother could do this, and not 1, 2, 3 years, but almost 5 years here, dropping food off and then and just abandoning these kids. Right. It's almost unthinkable. But to get in there, I don't know. Kiera, I don't know. She's got to be something special to do that.
Yeah,
we'll follow the story for sure.
Well,
okay, so that was, I don't know if they're talking about it here. Let's see.
For a period of time and had no contact with the kids. When he came out, he sought the opportunity to reunite with the kids and actually filed some legal papers in court to try to get visitation and those kinds of things. A consent agreement was arrived at in 2022, but the mother still would not allow him to see the kids. So that's what we've learned so far, at least preliminarily. We're going to go back and double check all these timelines and that kind of information. So one of the first questions is that we've heard from a lot of people is, where was the dad during this? So to back up a little bit, the father had been incarcerated for a period of time and had no contact with the kids. When he came out, he sought the opportunity to reunite with the kids and actually filed some legal papers in court to try to get visitation and those kinds of things. A consent agreement was arrived at in 2022, but the mother still would not allow him to see the kids. So that's what we've learned so far, at least preliminarily. We're going to go back and double check all these timelines and that kind of information. So he, in essence, had lost contact with the kids. That's where that stood. So we've had questions about that. The other questions that we've had was, who were the other people potentially dropping food at the house other than the mother? So far, again, the investigation is pretty layered and complex. Given
that's
that
what I want to
going
know.
Over years.
Who else?
But it appears that those are companies like an Instacart or a DoorDash, things like that. So, so far, none of the people that were coming to the house had any awareness that there were kids inside or the situation in which they were delivering to. Obviously, the question was somebody dropping food off knowing there's kids there? No information at this point leads us to believe that. The kids were forensically interviewed, with our partners at Care House. They've already been seen once at McLaren. We intend to have them at a much more detailed, both physical and mental health kind of checkup, if you will, that will happen hopefully this week. When our detectives saw them at their interview at Care House, they were already making amazing progress, having had some tender love, having had some supportive care, having been put in new clothing and some basic hygiene. The one detective said that the little girl was talking quite a bit. So that's super exciting to see that happening. And as it relates to being in the house, the only one of the three that ever came out was the young boy, and he came out twice. Once because he wanted to feel the grass, which by itself is heartbreaking, and a second time to check the mail. So you wouldn't do this to an animal, let alone your child.
Oh my
goodness. Just to hear that he came out to touch the grass is just crushing, soul crushing on so many levels. As it relates to the
Okay. You guys, I really, I don't know if you guys would want to see the rest of this or hear what they got to say. I don't know. I don't know. She said, I'm going to go back and watch the preliminary fully. This is a mess. Yeah. Well, they're showing certain preliminary parts, but there's only but 4 people, and we listen to one, we watch one. I kind of wanted to hear what this guy is saying, because he's giving information that these are the facts, you guys. These are the facts. So let's hear.
Operate. So inside of the home, as I had mentioned with these pictures, trash was piled, in some places 3 and 4 foot high. Everything was covered with feces and trash. The toilet had become non-functional, and the bathtub was filled with feces. That's the kind of situation these poor kids had been living in for years, not just hours or days, for years. And so when you have the complete lack of hygiene, a complete breakdown of basic living conditions that they were subjected to, and to get a little deeper into that, detectives have narrowed down the initial abandonment they believe to be somewhere in the spring to summer of 2020. Obviously, COVID played a little part in the disconnect potentially with schools and school communications. In 2020, the mother dropped off some trash bags, gloves, and Febreze, and that was about the last thing related to hygiene. 2020, in the height of COVID. Okay. Towards the end, the children apparently were getting a loaf of bread dropped off that was intended to last 3 to 4 days. So, obviously on so many levels, the conditions are horrendous and the situation terrible. So what we're trying to do in the meantime, and as it relates specifically to the case, the preliminary report has been turned over to the prosecutor. We're adding some more stuff for them. They're in the process of determination. When I heard about this, I called her on the weekend and let it know it was coming, and she has her staff queued up, and they're in that process. As it relates to the kids, the first thing we wanted to do is obviously get them safe and to get them clean and get them enclosed. And I will say we have one of the most generous communities, I think, in the world. We put on there that we needed clothing, and this is just a tiny sample of what we've received. At the office, of another office of ours, we have bags and bags. So we don't need any more clothing. We greatly appreciate it. The family and the kids greatly appreciate it. And so we're kind of pivoting now to financial support. And we have put up a link, if you will, to the charity Mission Oakland, and 100% of it will go to the kids. Unlike some of the traditional fundraising methodologies you see out there, they take a percentage, 100% of this will go to the kids. What I am asking is, again, our generous viewers and listeners out there and readers, we're looking for a law firm that would set up a trust fund so that we can take 100% of what we receive in donations for these kids and put it in a trust that can be administered, that can take care of maybe their medical bills, mental health visits, and if there's any overage, maybe set some money aside for their future education. This can be a long-term situation, and so we'd like to be able to kind of hand the baton to a trust fund that will manage it in a way that makes sure it's just the kids. Not suggesting anybody else would do anything with it, but we're looking for a mechanism where we can hand this off. So if there's a firm out there that would like to set up a trust fund for these kids, then we'll deposit any receipts that we have in a very short period of time. I think we've already got the $15,000 to $20,000 in on our donations. So we're going to, obviously have some real dollars to be able to give these kids, but that won't make up for the 3-4 years that they've been subjected to these conditions. I've said this more than once, but you see those videos of animals in just terrible conditions on commercials, and it pulls at your heartstrings. Imagine maybe by 10 living in what we showed you, and then play it out over years, not days or weeks. So it's hard to wrap your head around this one. So there's going to be a lot of long-term, I think, mental health and educational needs and things that we want to try to help with the family to get to that point. And the easiest answer we could come up with, and I put on my old legislative hat, and thank heavens we've got years. It's still, again, being investigated because we're going back years and trying to ability measures so we don't have kids fall through the cracks in such a horrific way. And that is the direct donation link to the children and their needs. So that's kind of the basics of where we are. As I said, we're going to have some follow-up investigative things we're going to be doing. We're going to check much more deeply the children's physical and mental well-being. Obviously, we're going to need to get an educational assessment on where they are. Without any education for a period of years, you hear how many kids across this country fell way behind from 1 year of COVID. Imagine where these kids are. And so we don't have a clue. Where are they educationally in terms of acuity and also mental health and all the developmental things that happen in those critical years? We don't know. And they're going to have needs with that. So it's a big undertaking, a big process. And one of the most tragic long-term abuse situations I've ever seen. I've been in this a long time. So that's kind of where we sit. Questions?
What did mom say or do to make her children so scared of leaving the house for years?
They were just scared. I don't know that she said anything particular that she's admitted to us, but they were afraid to leave. I know that much.
What's the latest with mom? I know the prosecutor's looking at this, but where is she? What's going on?
In custody with us.
Is she cooperating?
Yeah, I mean, she's talking to us, but we've got some follow-up secondary things that we want to ask her based on more information that's come to our attention since this originally surprisingly came to our attention when we were thinking we were going to check on her welfare and found 3 kids.
Any idea on the state of her mental health?
I have no information or background that she's got any mental health challenges, but obviously that will be all part of the case.
What's the message for everyone who's stepped up to make donations, whether it's been financial or all these supplies that have come in?
A heartfelt warm thank you to everybody that has stepped up. I mean, as I said, in very short order, we got a ton of clothing so much we had to say, okay, we got enough of that. Let's pivot to other ways we can help. And people have jumped in on that. I honestly think we have one of the most generous communities in the world. And I've seen it time and time again. You know, this goes back more than 20 years when I went to Ground Zero after 9/11. And so many police and fire families were decimated. And at that time, there was no mechanism. They immediately had their livelihood cut off, and these families had no income whatsoever. And so I started raising money in this area for the New York firefighters and police officers. And we raised hundreds of thousands of dollars in very short order and gave it to those families before they got any assistance from anyone else. That's this community. That's the heart and soul of this community. So, you know, I just say thank you.
What about the landlord? Usually when you're renting, the landlord or somebody will come in and do a maintenance check. What are they saying?
Well, the landlord's the one that actually called in a welfare check. You know, he said he hadn't heard from who he thought was the tenant for a period of time, and she hadn't paid her rent since October. So, I mean, typically a landlord would respond if there's complaints about something not working. But he was unaware of any of this. He actually sent us there to check on what he thought was his tenant. And that's when we found the kids.
And what's going to happen to that apartment or that townhouse right now? I mean, is it dangerous for the people that are, you know, next door? It's a kind of compact area.
Yeah, that will probably be up to the health department and other folks that will have to make a determination of how they move that forward. I mean, when we process that, we have to find a healthy way to process it. Pad scene. They've been to suicides. They've been to
her family and all this. I mean, what
House? Was it a family member?
who was she living with?
Yeah.
I probably won't get into that at this point.
it seems just kind of elaborate that she'd go to all these lengths trying to hide it from her family and all this. I mean, what stands out about this to you, Sheriff?
Yeah, I mean, the complexity of it, the length of it, I mean, on so many levels, it's just hard, again, to wrap your head around. If you don't want to be a parent, you know, then there's mechanisms in place. There's methodologies to either give your child up for adoption or to other family members. There's never an excuse to abuse your child or abandon your kids. There just isn't. There's so many people that are just wanting a child in their life out there. And I know there's, you know, a lot of kids that haven't been adopted, but anything's better than this. You know, if that's not in your wheelhouse to be a parent, then, you know, let someone else have a chance at that role.
Yeah, I'm glad. Okay, you guys, I wanted to see what he was going to say. I'm going to let that go ahead and continue to play, but I'm not going to put on the volume because he's actually just going over some things that we've already went over. I'm going to see if we've got one more, and because he's almost done. Let's see here. Anyway, okay. So, yeah, he obvious had some stuff going on. All right, you guys, I'm going to get off of here. That is one case we're going to follow, and we've been following that one, so we needed to jump on there. Like I said, they had the preliminary hearing Friday, and only thing we found out, which, I mean, it wasn't the only thing, but we, you know, she did omit that or admit that she sacrificed her kids for selfish reasons, and she wanted to know how could she help herself. She now know that the kids are going to be with other family members. Yolanda says, I wonder what she was telling them. Telling the kids. You know, you never know. They did say something about, she telling the kids, there's pedophiles out there, you're blackmailed because you're black, or do. She probably told the oldest child, and this is just a guess, protect your sisters. I think it's a good thing that she got the one child sent to the father, and then these children, the father was trying to get the kids. It used to be where the mother, the woman, the mother was the sole provider of, making sure the kids are okay, making sure they go to school. She was the protector, like she, Mama Bear protect the kids from dad, the neighbors, school, the system, whatever. It's not like that anymore. Now the system got to protect the kids from the mama. And that's why, you guys, when y'all do all this women rah, 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 I'm not in that, because I've seen some women are not good mamas. And I got them in my family. I be looking at them like, what the heck? Like, why would you do that in front of your kids? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, I get that we will make a bad decision being kind of in a bad situation. But, man, I tell you what, when, and I can only speak for myself, like, if anytime I got in trouble or something, the only reason why is because I had kids and I did what was best so that I could still be around with my children. Now, that's what I tell people all the time. You take the person that you're going to court or you're going to jail, and put that kid in front of them. They'll tell on everybody. They'll tell everything they can. I will tell you everything. You be like, well, we're going to take your kids away. Okay, what do you want to know? You want to know when, where, who, whatever? I'm telling you everything, because don't take my kids. I may not even have a roof over my head, but don't take my kids. It's crazy. But this mother, she was sitting there in court. I let you guys see her. She was sitting right there in court, and she just kind of just let it just keep happening. Like, it was crazy. Anyway, you guys, I'm gonna get off of here. Like I said, I wanted to kind of look back at some of the things that we were talking about and going over those. I'm still on the Naziah case. We are still looking at the Naziah case. I still want to go over stuff, but it seems like we're going over the same thing over and over and over. We're asking the same question. And I get it. I can do it all day, every day. I don't know if you guys can do it all day, every day, but I would like to probably talk about Naziah tomorrow, and just to see where you guys, we had some time to, go over some things and hear other things, other places. And so I was just sitting here thinking, if Annette and Marquita and Shannon, if they really didn't want Naziah, just like this mother, she had these 3 kids and she just got tired. I mean, people think it don't happen. It do. I was at work the other day. I was at work the other day. And, I go in the rooms and I do this, I do this, I do this. And, my attitude has changed a little bit. I'd be like, take your medicine. And, people want to look at it. They want to put their finger, they got one medication, one pill to take. They want to take it out the cup. It's going to fall in the bed. This happens like 10 times a day. And then they like, oops. It's not no oops to me. This is every day, all day. And I was thinking to myself, you have to calm down, be patient, find the pill. Hopefully you can find the pill or give them another one or whatever or something. And I thought, I went to go take a break. And I said to myself, I said, do I still want to continue doing this for 7 more years? I don't know. Like I used to love helping people, and I still do. I love helping people. I really do. But maybe I'm thinking, like the same thing over and over. And these people can't help it. That's why I'm trying to tell you guys, sometimes things get old and people just, like when you become a mom, some women be like, dang, I'm tired. I'm tired of going to work. They thought growing up was, I can party, I can do it better than my mom did it, or, it's easy. It's a piece of cake. It's not easy raising kids. And I salute to the women that has raised their kids and they're there, they didn't lose them, I mean, there's going to be, nature things happen and some of them don't make it, but and you can't do nothing about that. But to raise a child from day one, and then they get out there in that world, don't ever think that, shoot, you're not worthy, you're not a good person. It is hard. And then for you to sit back and put this child first, and everybody else is out partying, going to the club, going to the casino, they dating, they're taking trips, they buying new cars, and you sitting there with this kid, and this kid, you done spent your last, you looking at what little bit you got left as far as money, and you got to make sure the baby got Pampers, got pads, got shoes, got socks, and if you think that ain't nothing, you better look around, because not everybody's doing it like that. Not everybody's doing it like that. They just not. Anyway, you guys, I look at women and they raise their kids, and they may not get oh, you did a good job, or, oh, your mom. That's why we have Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas and things like that. To say thank you, basically, is to say thank you for, you didn't have to, because you see now, my mom would always say, I brought you in this world, I'll take you out, especially if I get a little lippy with her or whatever. But these kids, regardless of what their mom did, because they really don't know. They don't know. Do you not know, you guys? Let me tell you something. If you take a person that don't know something and you raise them up to know what you want them to know, and don't put them around nobody else, that's all they know. That's all they know. Just in another little town east of where I live at, this was like maybe a year or two ago, they found this African-American man living on this white man's property, his farm, just a farm, a regular house and a farmhouse. He done got him a house, placed it, a shed basically, placed it on his property. And I don't know where he got this black man from. I'm just telling y'all the true story. Matter of fact, I'll look it up. But he told the black man that he was his property. and he was a slave. You thinking in 2020 something, this is not happening. It happened right in a town, 20-minute drive from where I live at, where this black man was a slave for this white man. And we don't even know how many years he's been working for this white man, and doing all the work for the white man. And my husband was like, honey, do you know they had all kind of police at that man's house, and this black man thought he was this man's slave. And I said, what are you talking about? He was like, I said, when? He was like, today. I cannot even make it up. Let me try to see if I can find it. Let me see. African-American man being a slave in 2025 in the state of Kansas. I can't remember. I can't remember what year it was. White man keeps a black man a slave in, man, what was the town? I can't remember what town it was. Here, I'll read this one for you if you guys don't know. So listen to this. Let me read it. It says, black Conway man enslaved by white man for years, and he's taking him to court. So Chris Smith, who was enslaved for 5 years at a Conway restaurant, could be getting more than $500,000 in restitution, more than double his original amount after an appeal court ruled this. For 5 years, from 2009 to 2014, Bobby Edwards, the manager of JJJ Cafeteria in Conway, effectively enslaved Chris Smith, forcing him to work at the restaurant over 100 hours per week without pay, according to court. Smith is named Jack. However, Smith has spoken with ABC about his case and what happened to him. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison. So Edward pleaded guilty to forced labor in 2018. Now that, according to the court records, in 1990, when Smith was 12, he started working part-time at JJ's Cafeteria as a dishwasher. Court document shows he has an intelligent disability and an IQ of 70. So after a few years of part-time work, Smith dropped out of school and started working full-time at the restaurant, according to court documents. For the first 19 years of his employment, when the restaurant was owned and managed by different members of the Edwards family, Smith was paid for his work. However, in 2009, when Bobby Edwards took over the management, Edwards moved Smith into an apartment attached to the restaurant and forced him to work more than 100 hours per week without pay. Smith worked from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. for 6 days and then 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Sundays. He worked the long hours and was never given a day off. Edward also, according to court documents, took advantage of Smith's intellect disability and kept him isolated from his family, threatening him to have him arrested and verbally abusing him. His control, according to court documents, also involved physical abuse. Once, when Smith failed to deliver fried chicken to the buffet as quickly as Edward had demanded, Edwards dipped metal tongs into hot grease and pressed them to Smith's neck, resulting in a burn that fellow employees had to immediately treat. also noted in the court documents are other times when Smith made supposed mistakes and Edwards would whip him with his belt, beat him with kitchen pans, and punch him with his fist. I wanted to get out of there a long time ago, but I didn't have nobody I could go to, he said. Man, in 2014, a frequent customer noticed scars on Smith's body and called for help. She and Abdullah Mustafa, president of the Conway NAACP, who was with us as we spoke with Smith, have been working to get him help and a better job. I sat in the booth, and at the end of their bar, there was a dresser, an antique dresser. Chris came out of the kitchen and put some food down on the bar. He leaned one way over, and when he did, I could see a scar on his neck. After his guilty plea, Edward was originally ordered to pay restitution, $273,000, which, according to the court document, represent unpaid minimum wage and overtime. The government at the time requested an additional $272,000, which was rejected. An appeal court judge wrote on April 12, 2021, that the district court earned in not also order, as requested by the government, an additional equal amount as liquidated damages. So the appealing court on April 21st ruled that the district court is not awarding Smith that amount. They've sent their ruling back to district court, so Smith's award can be recalculated. So reaching out to Edward through his attorney, and we are waiting to hear back. Edward is currently serving his sentence in federal prison. Dang, you guys see what I'm saying? This stuff do happen. Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy. Anyway.
Football's a game of inches, thousands of reps. As a driver of a car.
Y'all said, wow, you got it spelled both ways, huh? Oh, yeah. Okay, here, listen. Here, hold on.
I never worked for Bobby. Janine Keynes worked nearly 2 decades on and off at the family-owned J&J cafeteria. She's also a customer. She says her daughter worked at the restaurant and told her Bobby Edwards was abusing Christopher Smith. I sat in a booth, and at the end of their bar, there was a dresser there, an antique dresser. And Chris came out of the kitchen and put some food down on the bar, and he leaned way over, and when he did, I could see it on his neck. That's when she called the Department of Social Services. I was beyond shocked. Court documents say Edwards forced the mentally disabled Smith in the restaurant, and he worked there for 23 years. Investigators say during his last 4 years there, he worked 18-hour shifts and was beaten over and over.
You know, first and foremost, you don't take advantage of someone who is mentally disabled. You can't work them free, okay? So that's what they did, work them free.
Abdullah Mustafa is president of the Conway NAACP. Janine Smith called him.
This kid must have worked sometime 24 hours straight, okay? 24 hours straight, you know? I mean, just purely inhumane.
He and Janine helped Smith find another job, but he didn't have it for long. Then he stayed in her house for 2 months. Since then, she's been looking for a service to help him. Because of the state of mentality he's in, he needs somebody watching him and helping him with his money so that nobody can take advantage of him.
Wow. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's
thousands of reps.
That's crazy. People will take advantage of you. Yeah. I was just trying to find the one that was here in town. Yeah, this guy, he enslaved this guy. It was crazy. Here's another one right here. This happened in South Carolina. Man gets 10 years for enslaving a black worker. Let's see. Let me see this. So it don't even have to be kids that you can put in situations like this. A white South Carolina restaurant manager has been, I think this is him. Yeah, this is the same one right here. Yeah, this is the same one. He used racial slurs too. Yeah. Yeah. Bobby Paul Edwards. Boy. He hired this kid at age of 12 and just worked him like a slave, like when Edward took over operations of the cafeteria and simply quit paying Smith, who was given a small room at the back of the restaurant. For 5 years, according to the court documents, Smith, who eventually became a buffet cook, was required to work more than 100 hours from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and from 6 a.m. until 2 p.m. on Sundays without a day off. Edward used violent threats, verbal abuse, threats of taking Smith to jail in order to compel him to keep working at J&J, according to the court documents. At times, the court said Edward would beat Smith with a belt or hit him in the kitchen items such as pots, pans, punching him, fists, either because he believed the man worked too slow or had done something wrong on the job. At one point, the suit charged Edward threatened to stomp his throat and beat him until people would not recognize him. Plaintiff was heard crying like a child and yelling, "No, Bobby, please." After this beating, defendant Bobby forced plaintiff to get back to work. "He will beat me with belts and all that," Smith said. "Take the tongs to the grease on my neck." Smith said he wanted Edward to go to prison, and "I want to be there when he go." Yeah. See, y'all don't get to see that stuff like that. I see it all the time, but there was, like I said, there was this one person in town and they did something. And that's what I was trying to find, but I can't find it right now. But anyway, you guys, the reason why we came up on that subject is because, if you take a kid away from people and teach them whatever you want to teach them, that's all they know. That's all they know. It don't have to be of color. It can be because, you're a kid. And the sad thing about these kids that's in Pontiac is they love their mama. They love their mama. And when you don't know no better, you can't do no better. These little girls started their period and they didn't know what to do. They did not know what to do. And this mother, people's like, she needs to be locked up like them. Well, that's just something that the government in the United States, we don't do. We don't put harm on people like they do. I mean, I don't know. We just don't. Do they deserve it? Yeah, eye for an eye. That's the way I believe. I mean, I believe like whatever I do, if it gets done to me, then I'm cool with it. Like, I'm going to take my punishment. If I took something from you and you take something from me, then, I'm cool, But when it comes down to these kids, these little babies, they're like 7, 8, they're 12 and 13 now, but they can't even walk straight. They all hunched up. Why? Nobody told them. What was they started walking on their hands or something? Or I don't know why they were hunched over like that. Anyway, yeah, Passion B, we finna get off of here. I was just talking and chatting about these things about the lady in Pontiac. Anyway, you guys, I'm gonna get off of here. You gotta live and you gotta learn. You really do. You gotta live and you gotta learn. And I don't think things are really even getting better, to be honest with you. I just don't. Because our laws are not protecting the people. It's not protecting the people.